Hey, everybody, this is Butch Patrick. That's right, TV's Eddie Munster from yesteryear, and you're listening to the RockStop with Chris Contra.
All right, welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here, and this is going to be a fun show tonight. Joining me on the program is Butch Patrick, who famously portrayed Eddie Munster, the son of Herman and Lily on the classic sitcom The Munsters. How's it going, Butch?
I'm doing great, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you being here.
No worries.
I know the show originally started as a vehicle kind of for Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis, who were coming off of Car 54, and they wanted to do this monster show, which was a fantastic original idea for TV. But the original pilot did not have you or Yvonne De Carlo yet, so they were kind of missing a couple of key pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty strange story that particular idea of that show actually started in the late 40s, early 50s with the animator Bob Clampett, who went on to do Beanie and Cecil and stuff. He had an idea for likable, lovable monsters as a cartoon. And the idea just never took hold. And over the years, they finally resurrected it, but they went with a real sitcom format. But isn't that amazing that like almost 15 years before the Munsters, it was already an idea as a cartoon?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So it took that long before it finally some executive finally gave it a green light there, and they did it in a live action way.
Yeah, it's kind of like those overnight successes that they've been playing music for 20 years.
Right. So the original pilot, like I said, it had some pieces missing there, including yourself and Yvonne. Now, Yvonne De Carlo was a major motion picture actress at the time, so for her to do TV was not a common thing back then for somebody to go from big movies into TV.
No, they were very lucky to get her. Unfortunately, the situation, the way they got her was kind of a sad state of affairs, as her husband, a stuntman, was hurt very, very badly in a stunt gone wrong on How the West Was Won. And the medical bills were piling up, and his insurance didn't cover it. They claimed it was negligence or something. But the bottom line was they depleted all their finances for his medical stuff, and she went back to work out of necessity.
Wow.
And we were lucky to have her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming off of a film career and then being able to step into a role like that and have such great comic timing and things.
Yeah, Fred and Al actually were pretty much dead set against her. Number one, they thought that she couldn't do it. They thought she wasn't a comedic actress. She proved them wrong. And after they got a few weeks under their belt and everybody kind of got comfortable with each other, I think they went on to do some really good work together.
Yeah. Now, when you got the part of Eddie, what did the script call for? I mean, was it sort of an all-American kid or?
Yeah, that was the whole premise of the show. See, the idea was if you took away from the makeup and you just read the script and the dialogue, it was just it was Leave It to Beaver producers. They produced Leave It to Beaver for 6 years, and they were doing the Munsters, and their scripts were very much like Donna Reed and Father Knows Best. The family unit was just a very, might as well have been, My Three Sons over there. But the bottom line was, with the makeup and the monster angle, that's what made it funny. But other than that, Eddie Munster was just a regular kid who happened to have unusual parents.
Right. So you related to the character pretty well then.
I got very lucky. Most of the time when I worked, I was lucky enough to play myself, and it worked for them. Occasionally in acting, if you're not, if it's not working being yourself, then you have to adjust yourself to what the director's needs are, which I could do. But for this particular case, I played myself, and everybody seemed to like it.
Yep, absolutely. And all these years later, we're still talking about it. And that's the other thing about the Munsters is that the longevity, the people look back on this show. Like, there's so many shows that have come and gone and people forget about, but this is certainly not one of them. This show really does stand the test of time, even though it only ran for a couple seasons in the 60s.
Yeah, it's a very I don't know, a perfect storm situation. It was just the right time and the right people and the right period of the 60s and the middle of pop culture and music and movies and television. It was just a really wonderful decade for a lot of creative stuff to come down the pike. And the Munsters and Mr. Ed and My Favorite Martian and, a lot of other shows. And, I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, these shows that had no bearing and nothing to do with reality, but they were very funny to watch and people enjoyed them. I mean, the Flintstones were on, for God's sake. And, it was like, who would have thought a cartoon would be successful in primetime TV at night? But everybody just wanted to be entertained, and they were.
Yeah, good point. And the fact that, I said it only went to, a few seasons, but you did do 70 episodes, which is, or, maybe a little give or take one or two, but around 70 episodes. And that is much different than TV today for 2 seasons.
Well, it's true. That number one, yes, 70 episodes was a lot. We did 39 the first year. We backed off to 31 the second year. You got to remember, this was a different time in the world, without cable, without internet. The TV guide would come in the mail. People would grab it and they would pencil in what they were going to be watching for the week. It was the entertainment centerpiece, and we were like the lead show. So after dinner, people would hover around the TV set, and lucky for us, on Thursday nights, with only 3 channels, we had a very large audience and a big piece of the viewing pie. So it just stuck in people's brains. And the funny part about it is that's understandable. What's really unusual is 55 years later, today, kids who are introduced to it enjoy it as much as their grandparents did. So that's the real magic to it.
Right. That's a great point, because you could talk about the people at the time and how they were, watching it and things, but the fact that the show still resonates these days with the kids that grow up in entirely different situations than people in the 60s, it really shows that show had some real legs to it, that it could, still grab the imagination.
Well, it's true. It's very popular. It's still on. Toys are issued. Licenses are issued. The music theme, Fallout Boy has done the theme. The London Philharmonic, the Boston Pops. The music was really strong. The cars were cool. Yeah. The special effects for their times were pretty good. And it was funny. It was well acted. Yeah. It really didn't have a weak link in it. And, Universal Studios was the monster studio in the 40s, late 30s and early 40s and early 50s, with basically the Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. All the great monster movies were at Universal, and they took that knowledge and that technique that they had of making movies and applied it to the series, because it was shot on film, and the lighting and the set design and all the things that they did so well in the full-length features, they applied to the Munsters as a series. So that's why the quality was so good.
You talk about the Universal horror movies at the time. At your age doing that show, you were around 11, 12 years old, something like that?
Yeah, I was 11 and 12. That's correct.
And did you watch any of those Universal horror movies before doing the job?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. I built the models, the Aurora models, and I still love the old monster movies. Those are my favorites. And then also, growing up, being born in 53, I was also a big fan of the Atomic Age movies with them and the giant ants and this and that in the desert, and the Martian movies, Invaders from Mars, yeah. And the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Those were really, just drive-in movies were all the rage, and the black and white horror, sci-fi, scientific, atomic bomb movies, Godzilla. It was really good. It was a good time to be a kid.
Yeah, definitely. And those movies I think play well today. They're just good, fun movies to watch, and yeah, I think a lot of people do enjoy them very much. So I just want to ask you about your. Do you remember the first? I know the intro to the show, the classic intro that was sort of played off the Donna Reed show, where yep. Lily is handing out, getting everybody ready to go off for their day.
Yeah,
and
off
stuff.
To start their day. Yeah, everybody to start their day.
Was that your first sequence you shot?
I believe. Well, no, actually, it wasn't, because the original opening had me without a widow's peak and eyebrows. And if you watch, there's an episode where we put a love potion in the oatmeal, and everybody has like the opposite sexes, like the mailman's chasing Lily around, and the next door neighbor Yo-Yo is chasing Herman around, and it shows me running down the street with a bunch of girls chasing me home from school. And that, if you look closely, you'll notice that I didn't have a widow's peak and I didn't have eyebrows on, so they must have redone the opening with the new makeup. Oh,
okay, that's interesting. And they kept that open for season 1, and then season 2, a little different. I know you had the giant baseball bat in that one.
Yeah, walking through the door, Herman, and busting through the porch. Yeah, the big baseball bat with the looking off into as if I hit a home run and looking at the ball clearing the fence.
Yeah. Did they have any other ideas, or was that pretty much they like that one?
As a kid, you're not really privy to what their ideas were. You just sort of do what you're told.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah. And yeah, 64 to 66, the show ran. Of course, since it's even gotten bigger, I think. Have you noticed that throughout the years that the show just seems to be getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah, because basically everybody who's alive that watched it is still watching it and still likes it, and then people who weren't alive are obviously fans of it, and kids are fans of it. So yeah, I mean, sometimes people will make the mistake of saying it's a cult classic, and I'll say it's way beyond cult classic.
Yeah.
It's mainstream pop culture royalty, and literally, and the way you could tell that is the fact of the merchandise. Whenever there's merchandise selling out, and you look on eBay and you see how valuable the Munster stuff is, it's a good indicator. And for instance, when I go out and do personal appearances and visit, I have a Munster Koach and a Dragula, and I do a lot of car events. It's amazing. The gearheads love it because of the cars. A lot of people come up and say, "Oh, gee, I got into makeup and Halloween because of the Munsters," or there's just everybody has some form of a rationale to why they like the show. But the best part about it is the memories and the how people will come up and say, "Oh, my grandfather's gone, but some of my favorite memories were watching the show with him because he just loved it so much, and it's like my favorite show, or it was his favorite show." They don't say like one of the favorite shows. They'll just downright say it was his favorite show. I mean, this was like a must-see thing every week.
Beyond like the TV show, you then did a couple movies. Now, was that, I know you did like Munsters Go Home. It was in 66, I think, which was the last year the Munsters ran.
Well, the movie was kind of a strategic play by they were pondering going to a third season, and they decided against it. So in lieu of a third season, the syndication was just starting about, selling shows around the world for rerun packages to other countries. And since nobody really knew who the Munsters were anywhere else, they decided to do a feature, release the feature worldwide, and then it would make the sale of the show easier. So it was actually done as a strategic marketing ploy.
Did you feel, after 2 seasons, did you think it might have ended a little too soon?
No, I think it was a good time.
Yeah.
Fred and Al were from New York. They were ready to go home. The scripts were getting a little thin. Ratings were down. Batman was up. Color, I don't think the show would have done as well in color, even though we were very, very much all colorful with our makeup. I think black and white was the proper genre for it. So I think it all worked out for the best.
You guys were eventually in color in Munsters Go Home. So what was it like seeing yourself in Technicolor up on the screen?
To me, I thought it was a little much. I thought they really hit the color. We didn't look like that in the series. They upped the color factor for us for the movie, for Technicolor. And so we were like a little brighter green and blues and stuff than we would have been normally. But it worked out. My suit used to be gray, and they gave me a purple suit for the movie. We brought in a redhead instead of a blonde for Marilyn.
Yeah.
Debbie Watson was a contract player that Universal was pushing a new series. So they wanted her to be Marilyn to help promote the show. Pat Priest was devastated, which, as you can tell, horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting time, but it worked out pretty well. And we never went to England. A lot of people thought we went there, and I always make the joke, we went on a cardboard boat.
Right. So you say they brought in that other person to play Marilyn because they were trying to push her career at the time.
She had a show called Karen on a series called 90 Bristol Court, which was 3 rotating series, kind of like they had the Virginian, which was a 90-minute Western going. They had 90 Bristol Court with Karen and 2 other shows going. And then this was right before they started rotating Macmillan and Wife and all the Columbo, and I think there was another one with I can't remember who it was, but anyway, there was a lot of interesting programming ideas going around, and one of them starred Debbie Watson, and they wanted to get her some exposure.
Of course, Pat Priest would be, very disappointed by that. And I understand that they are trying, a business move there to push her career, the one they brought in, the redhead. But I mean, did they not? You think figure the fans might not accept that too well?
Well, they did. It's Debbie did a good job, and they left her as a redhead because that was her signature hair color for the series for Karen.
Oh, okay, yeah. I heard Beverly Owen, who played the original Marilyn, was not an actual blonde. Is that true?
No, she was a brunette.
Yeah. So she
good wig.
Yeah, right. And she did the first 13 or so episodes of the show, yeah. and then Pat took over for her after she was wanting to get married, I guess, right? So she wanted to leave the show, Beverly.
She was dating the producer of Captain Kangaroo. Yeah, she wanted to go home, and she was homesick and in love, and then. The good news is they wound up, getting married, and he went off to help develop a series called Sesame Street. So, I'd like to think that she was a happy camper and married, and I would like to think she had a hand in helping develop that.
So let me ask you about your own personal life around that time, growing up, kids your age, discovering your success. How was that experience?
Yeah, kids are kids, and going back into the public school system after that, kids will be curious, looky-loo, kind of like, smart asses, give you a hard time. But, if you don't give them the time of day and that you don't let them get a rise out of you, they pretty much get bored with it pretty quickly is what happened. So it was fine.
It was fine, but not really as being admired by your peers. It was a little more on the other end of it.
A couple idiots to ruin it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
The public school that I went to had 3,500 kids. It was a giant school, and I was in the 7th grade. And anybody knows junior high, you go into 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. It was just a tough first few weeks, but it was fine after I got a foothold and made some friends. Everything was cool.
Yeah, that's good. And then going forward, you acted for a few more years there, and then I heard about a trip you went on in 1969 to Brazil to go film, and that kind of turned things for you.
Well, you got to remember it was 1969 too, and it was a whole different world, and everything that was going on in the world back then, the Summer of Love, and the year before I did a movie called The Phantom Toll Booth where I spent some time in San Francisco at the corner of Haight-Ashbury. With Woodstock and the Manson family and moon landings and all that stuff going on in 1969. Partying was definitely something that was going on in the world. And when I went to Brazil and I came back 3 months later, I had no teacher and no parent escorting me down there. So I had a chance to pretty much run amok, which I did. I mean, I still did the job. I showed up for work and suited up and showed up and did everything. But by the time I came back, I had my own car and I had my own money, and it was my girlfriend lived in Laurel Canyon, and it was up in Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard, and it was fast times at Ridgemont High,
And so you worked for a couple more years after that, but wanting to turn your attention into other things other than acting.
I never wanted to be an actor. There was a temporary job for me that I thought I'd make some money, and it would help me with my race car and my dream of being a race car driver, which it did help a little bit. Problem was I was drafted into the last year of the lottery in Vietnam War, and I thought I was going to go over and die. So what I did is I petitioned the courts to give me my money before I was 21, which I did. I was the first person to do that at the age of 18. I felt that if I could vote and I could go die, why can't I have my money? And they agreed.
Yeah.
Then what happened was when I went up for my induction to my examination, they found out that I had a bad knee. So I basically didn't go to Vietnam. But at the same time, I was, still living the life I had opened up in Brazil, living at the beach and driving fast cars and surfing all day. So the last thing I wanted to do was go to work.
That type of lifestyle eventually is going to catch up with you. And, years of, I've had Brandon Cruz on the show, who I know a little bit. And he's had a similar, experience, going from child star into a world of, some destruction there. And kind of a decades-long problem with, alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, I met Brandon when we were doing 80 Steps to Jonah, a movie. I was 15 years old in March of 69, and he was probably about 7. He was, I think he was just about ready to do the courtship of Eddie's father. Anyway, Brandon and I were friends, have been known each other for a long time, and yes, we both have similar experiences with the drug and alcohol nature of the lifestyle in California, for sure.
Yeah, and then turning that around and
yep.
In recent years, it's not an easy thing to do, and a lot of people are unable to do it at any point. So, congratulations on that.
Yeah, it's probably my biggest achievement, actually. It's coming. It'll be 10 years in November.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm amazed myself. It's actually, though, it's to be honest with you, it's a very cool club. There's a lot of very high profile people in the music and the movie business who didn't survive.
Yeah,
who didn't survive it, and the ones that did and who are sober and they sort of come out and they introduce themselves to you once they see that you're serious about it, and it's like a very cool club to be part of.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And at the time before you cleaned yourself up there, do you think you were like actively trying to be destructive, or was it just something that came with the lifestyle that the drugs and alcohol kind of put you in a path that
it came as a lifestyle because I was all about wanting to be accepted by the regular guys. So, I would buy the beer and I'd throw the parties and I'd have the pot and the Coke and all the stuff that went along with it. And you got to remember, this is like early 70s. It's a whole different style of drug culture than it is today. I never did needles. I never got into heroin or anything like that. Back then it was basically, if you just look at movies like Blow, I lived in Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach. That's where the movie takes place with Johnny Depp,
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how the lifestyle was. It was, people didn't really, it wasn't, I didn't get into it to make money. I got into it to get high for free and give the rest of it away. It was literally, you would sell some to your friends because they wanted it. And once you got your money back, the rest of it was just giveaway stuff. So it wasn't really a monetary, get rich from it. It was more of a get high for free mentality. It was just different.
Yeah.
Now, it's a whole different world, and I mean, it was like decades of the Coke decade, the speed decade, the lewd decade. I mean, it was crazy, and I did it for 41 years.
Wow.
So I was lucky to survive it. I really was.
And you were you were functioning at the time. I mean, I'd seen you around in the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
No, I functioned. I was a functioning alcoholic and drug addict, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, a lot of people will, and it's the funny part about it is I was really good at it. I threw parties, and it started off as a party mode, and then it became more of a maintenance mode, and then it became sort of just existing mode. But a lot of people come up to me and say, I didn't even know you had a problem, and it's like, I guess I must have masked it better than I thought.
Right. That's that's true, and that's kind of the scary thing too, because you've seen plenty of people that do mask it well, and then you hear a couple days later they die or something. So I mean, it's dangerous.
Yeah, definitely dangerous. Yeah, absolutely. I've got those. Like I said, I'm blessed and very lucky that I came out the other side.
Yep, almost 10 years now. So congratulations on that very much.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you if you did you stay close with the cast? I know Fred Gwynne unfortunately passed away back in the early 90s. Did you still talk to him after the show ended and things?
Not so much Fred. Fred pretty much distanced himself from anything to do with the Munsters, and obviously, if we were ever seen together, what would be the common denominator would be, Eddie Munster.
Yeah.
But when I turned 30, Al Lewis, I reached out to Al to help me with the promotion because I had Eddie and the Monsters, and I was on the East Coast, and I needed him to help the band on Halloween night at the Palladium on the West Coast. So we reconnected, and then right about that time is when Comic-Con started coming into play. And we started going around with Pat Priest and start doing personal appearances together. So that's how me and Pat reconnected. And then Yvonne De Carlo, I was asked to be on the Vicki Lawrence show as a surprise guest for Yvonne. And then that's how we reconnected. And then when she, in later years of her life, when she was somewhat of a recluse up in Napoma, northern, up past Santa Maria, a couple hours north of Los Angeles, then I started going up and visiting her, and then brought some other friends up that took care of her, and one thing led to another. So, yeah, I mean, as a kid, no, I wasn't really friends with him because we parted ways. Mm-hmm. But as an adult in the 80s, I started reconnecting with people, and then I reconnected with Yvonne in the 90s.
That's cool. So you actually were there for her late in her life. That must have been that's nice.
It was. It was. I put her in touch with some people that helped her out and got her into the old motion picture home and made sure that she had her needs were met and this and that. So yeah, I like to feel that we helped her a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. And you talk about Fred not really embracing the Munsters after he was done with it, and that I guess that is a big thing in Hollywood. You know, so many people get typecast and things in all kinds of roles. I remember Anthony Perkins used to not do too many horror movies after he did Psycho, and then toward the later part of his career, he did nothing but horror movies.
Yeah, he at the end he enjoyed Herman Munster. He did such a good job. He was just a great actor, and it was just a weird scenario that he got stuck with that moniker of Herman Munster. And I've been in movies with when he comes on the screen, I'll hear whisper, 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 and that's Herman Munster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did such a good job that unfortunately it kind of stuck with him in a way that he didn't anticipate.
Yeah, but like you said, he did such a great job. And was he? How was he on set with you? I mean, was he? You're the only kid around at the time.
That was great. He was a great TV dad, and Al. Everybody was very nice to me. They all had kids about my age.
Oh, really?
And Fred did children's books, and Al was a child psychologist, and Pat had kids. She was a mom. Yvonne was a mom. So yeah, I was very well taken care of, and I did my job, and I was professional, so they appreciated that, and we all had a good time.
That's great. And then I imagine reconnecting with Al later on. It was a little different than when you were a kid.
Yeah, he's although once you're a kid, they always treat you like you're still 8 years old if you let them.
Oh yeah. And one more thing on Fred Gwynne, I thought was interesting. You talk about at the time maybe he didn't embrace it. Maybe later on he kind of did. The Munsters role and things. I think about the movie My Cousin Vinny, which was one of his last movies, and outstanding movie, one of my favorite comedies. And if you notice at the very end when he's waving goodbye to Joe Pesci as he drives off, it looks like he does a wave as though he was like Herman Munster.
That could be, yeah, right.
I don't know if it was. I feel like it might have been intentional, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll have to look at it next time I'll notice it.
Yeah, right at the end there. So just a few more things as we wind down here. This is Butch Patrick. You're listening to here on the RockStop. A few more Munsters related questions. I know it was shot on the Universal Backlot. So as a kid, 11, 12 years old, that had to be unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it's funny when I was completing my book, Munster Memories, the editor says, "Well, what's your favorite memory?" And I said, my Munster Memories really, that was my job, and I had a good time and I enjoyed what I did. But my favorite memories had nothing to do with the Munsters. It had to do with the Universal Backlot when I could go wander around and see what everybody else was doing. That was what was. I mean, you're a 12-year-old kid. What do you like to do? You like to explore and go places you're not supposed to go. So here I was at the greatest studio in the world with like any given time. We had 3 Westerns going. We had Laredo, and we had Wagon Train and the Virginian, and we had Alfred Hitchcock. We had McHale's Navy, a few other things, but we had a lot of movies. There was always movies going on because it was a movie studio. So we would have maybe 15 movies any given time in various stages of production. Not to mention the Phantom of the Opera soundstage next door to go look into, and Mike Westmore up at the lab creating stuff in the makeup lab. And, I always had something to do. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. You mentioned Alfred Hitchcock. Did you actually meet Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, he used to give me a ride down to the commissary in his limo.
Outstanding director there, and a very unique guy. Did you get to talk to him much, or just?
Not a whole lot. I'd be walking along, and he was just a character. He was kind of like an old, grandpa type of guy.
Yeah.
But I was Eddie Munster. I was the only kid on the lot. I think a lot of people probably felt a little sympathetic for my plight because look at this poor little guy, wandering around. I wasn't really wandering, but it was easy for people to reach out and be nice to me.
Yeah. Did you ever wander into a set and maybe get a part on one of these shows or anything?
No. But I wander on all the sets because I knew how to get into a set without ruining a shot or causing any retakes.
Yeah.
You got to be quiet. You got to know when to get in and when to get out, and what you can do and what you can't do, which I was totally aware of. So I could go explore at my leisure and get away with all kinds of good stuff.
Definitely cool. So you talk about a little earlier. You mentioned how you weren't really an actor. You were just had other passions in life and things. So,
Yeah, it was a hobby that I never took an acting class. I just had a kind of a gift to just, luckily, like I say, luckily for me, my interpretation of what casting directors were looking for and directors were looking for was 90% of the time I didn't have to really do anything but other than be myself. And my own interpretation was pretty close on it. And then those are times when it wasn't. Well, then you need to adjust to what the director asked for, and I was able to do that. So
yeah, gotcha. So I mean, when the boom of the late 90s, early 2000s of reality TV happened, talk about being yourself. Were you approached to do any shows like VH1 used to have the Surreal Life where they put a bunch of celebrities in a house, things like that? Would you be interested in anything like that?
That and you got to remember those were the years when I wasn't really on my game.
Yeah, that's true.
So those, that was kind of like I could go do guest roles, and I would go on a talk show and this and that. But at the same time, it was, the last thing I really wanted to do was sort of fess up to where you were at in life. So you kind of distance yourself from that kind of attention.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I do remember seeing you on we talked about Brandon Cruz a little earlier in this episode, on an episode of MTV's Remote Control with you, Brandon Cruz, and Danny Bonaducci.
Brandon and Danny. That was actually a funny weekend in Disneyland, Disney World in Orlando. Me and Brandon and Danny went out on a bender. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that's up on YouTube if you guys want to see it. Fun show right there. I know you got your YouTube channel that you got launched up, Coach to Koast with K's.
With K's, Coach to Coast with my Munster coach. I drive around the country. A friend of mine that's a big YouTube guy suggested that to me, and he says, Butch, while you're driving around, I'll give you some places to go. Then you add in your own personal touches of places to go. And unfortunately, I haven't been anywhere for the last 4.5 months.
Yeah,
but yes, I think I have about 16 segments up there before the lockdown. I'm really happy doing it. Then we also have Macabre Theater, which is on YouTube America, which is YTA. It's a streaming channel, and it's also on a lot of the cable services around the country, where we did this show back in 2005, and it's been going ever since, hosting old scary monster movies, as you might expect it to be called Macabre Theater. With Yvonne De Carlo is my co-host, so you can catch that on Saturday nights. We do a double feature, YTA. Check it out. I'm up here in Manhattan Beach at my sister's house, and part of the things on my Munsters.com is almost back up again. I had to take it down for a while to revamp it, and it's going to be back up. And one of the products that I really happily sell there is front door keys that are made out like Munster keys with the spot and a woof woof and a tombstone 1313. So if anybody gets a chance, you go to Keys to My Castle and you can check out some very cool products there.
Awesome.
That's about all I want to play. Well, the official Munsters fan group with nearly 25,000 members.
Wow. All right. So yeah, definitely check that out for you Munsters enthusiasts out there. We got a lot. Yeah. And the Macabre Theater. So what it's like you host, you come in between the movie and talk about it, stuff like that.
Yeah. Very much like Elvira.
Yeah, that's always fun. I always enjoy things like that.
Two of us, and it's a little more campy and fun. But yeah, it's basically a horror host show, and it's been going strong. And it's on this, like I say, it's on Mark Burnett, the creator of Shark Tank and Survivor. It's his network.
Cool. All right. And then I did want to mention on your Coach to Coast, I was watching some of your travels around, and you talk about interesting stories. You had the one on Francis Farmer that I saw. That was so. I mean, do you come up with these ideas, things that just always interested you about, Americana, pop culture, things like that?
Francis Farmer was suggested to me by my partner. That was the first one. Then as I traveled, I would do bucket list stuff. I would go visit my stepfather's grave. It's a combination of fan base, historical significance, and just interesting things along the way that I find interesting. And a lot of it has to do with I enjoy America and I enjoy the road. So as I'm driving around, there's always interesting stuff to go look at. And it kind of basically, on the weekends I'm working, but Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday while I'm driving from point A to point B, it's fun to stop and take the time to put something together.
Definitely. So hopefully, you can start that back up soon. Do you have any places in mind that you're kind of chomping at the bit to get to?
What I'm hoping to do is integrate the Koach into it more. Right now, it's called Coach to Coast, but I really haven't done the Munster Koach driving some celebrities around or dignitaries or interesting folks. I want to put them in the Koach and actually do the road trip to the destinations as opposed to being in my truck. As long as I got the car in tow, I figure we might as well let some people ride around in the Munster Koach, and I think that'll make it even more entertaining.
That's a great idea, yeah. So hopefully you get that going. That sounds like it's going to be fun to watch for sure.
It will be.
So, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show here, Butch. This has been a lot of fun.
No problem, Chris.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun talking with you, and take care, man, okay?
Take care.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.